Good morning and welcome this morning. This is the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City. I'm a member of this fellowship. My name is Jeanne Shazo, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm your worship associate this morning. Today, you may have noticed we started our Zoom video with a colorful information slide from Jen Gill with more of the life of our church. It's sort of a local public service announcement from UUFRC, always innovating. And now we're going to introduce our guest speaker, Reverend Dr. Leon Dunkley, a friend and colleague of Reverend Brian from the Star King Seminary. Reverend Leo, a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, is the called minister of North Universalist Chapel in Woodstock, Vermont, which I now understand is about the same size as our fellowship. He's a Tufts University alum, and also his PhD is from the University of Pittsburgh in ethnomusicology. So you won't be surprised that he's interested in traditional drumming of Ghana, the Republic of Zaire, the Kora tradition of Senegal, the gamelan traditions of Java and Bali in Indonesia, the African American and jazz traditions in the Americas, and most recently in bluegrass and country blues. And I just had to say this also. He sings and plays several instruments, including guitar, piano, conga, gangui, a West African double bell, and the didgeridoo. So it's just fascinating. Okay, deep breath. Here at UUFRC, we seek to build a community of spirit and joy, giving us strength and hope in an uncertain world. We celebrate the faith journeys we take, together and alone. We work to create a better world, reaching out and building relationships beyond our walls. Whoever you are, whatever journey you are on, whatever led you to our service this morning, we are glad you are here. Now, please settle in, block out the noise, silence your cell phone, and join us in this hour as we seek to build more beloved community. Now, Reverend Dr. Dunkley will lead us in our chalice lighting.
Good morning, everyone. How do you do? It's good to know you. Thank you for that introduction. That's really thorough. The most important things, though, are that I am an unabashed beer snob from New Jersey, and that I am a rabid dog lover and a Red Sox fan. I hope that's okay with all of you. It is a blessing to be here on this planet together in this world in which we live. It's a pleasure to be sharing this morning with you on the topic of forgiveness. I'm so happy to be here with you. It is my pleasure. And I'm so glad that we are here together. The chalice lighting this morning comes to us from two great leaders inside of Unitarian Universalism. Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, who is a former president of the Star King School for the ministry, where I met Brian, where he and I went to seminary. And the Reverend John Burens, who formerly served as minister to First Unitarian Society of San Francisco. So let me light the chalice. The opening words are these: hope rises. Hope rises, it rises from the heart of life, here and now, beating with joy and sorrow. Hope longs. It longs for good to be affirmed, for justice and love to prevail, for suffering to be alleviated, and for life to flourish in peace. Hope remembers. It remembers the dreams of those who have gone before and reaches for connection with them across the boundary of death. Hope acts. It acts to bless, to protest, and to repair. Thank you, Hope. What a blessing it is to know you. Good morning, everyone. It is good to be together. I now invite you to join us in the singing of this morning's opening hymn, Gather the Spirit. Dawn, if you would be so kind to help us out with that. Thank you.
Okay, I know you're seeing me right now, and I will have story slides in a minute, but I wanted to tell you that this story is real. It comes from when I was in grade school, a little girl, and it actually made me, I still carry it with me. It's really an important story. So with that, let's get started. So this is a story that I illustrated for us today. So on the playground, I loved playing outdoors. I loved the playground. I didn't have a lot of friends. I liked everybody. Everybody liked me okay, but I was still kind of a loner. But I did find a special friend. His name was Wendell, and we all called him Wendy, an old English name. He was very tall and very smart. And we were both kind of loners. And so we became really good friends, and we've discovered that we loved spending time together. We played games together. We read books together. We even shared our pets. And then we loved playing outdoors. No matter what it was, we loved doing it. We built forts. We explored the neighborhood. We went inside for milk and cookies. That was his mom. My mom gave us milk and an apple. We had a great time and were best friends. But not everything was as I wanted it to be. So I wanted us all to be friends together. And I didn't know how to do that because definitely Wendy was even more of a loner than me, mostly because other kids didn't play with him. But then I got Wendy's birthday party invitation. Oh, I was so happy. I was thinking, all right, we're going to have a great party. Oh, and then I had an idea. This could be when we all become friends at his party. So I was so excited. I took my invitation and I went to school the next day so I could talk to all the girls about going. And as I was going up to them with my invitation, I heard one of the girls say, excuse me, say, did you get a birthday party invitation from Wendy? And another girl said, yes, I did. And are you going? Oh no, ew, I'm not going. We're not going. And they went running off. And I thought, whoa, I was so surprised. It was hard. And then I realized that in order to be friends with the girls, I maybe couldn't be friends with Wendell. I didn't know what to do. I was so confused and unhappy. And I don't think he was very happy about it. I didn't talk about it with him. I didn't say anything. I did not know what to do. I had to make a choice. So when Wendy called me on the phone the day before his party, he said, Jeannie, you didn't tell me whether you're coming to my party or not. And I waited and I waited. And then in a tiny little voice, I said, no, I can't come. Oh, goodbye. And he hung up the phone. And no one went to his party. I didn't go either. And I felt terrible. You know why I felt so terrible? I felt terrible that I had hurt my very good friend, Wendy. It was an awful feeling. Now, he then moved away, and I didn't get a chance to repair this. And here I am, 75 years old, and still I hurt for what I did to Wendy. Yes, the next year I did find a really good friend, and we were friends for years and years. Her name is Nancy. We did everything together, and I went to all of her birthday parties, but I never forgot Wendy. So I say, be true to your friends, Be kind to yourself and to others. These are things we remember. Thank you. Thank you for listening to that.
I want to invite you all to come to Woodstock, Vermont for a moment with me. Behind the 19th century white box church, New England church, that I serve, there runs a river named the Ottaquiche, which is a Abenaki word for swift river. And in the autumn, the leaves fall from the trees and settle on that water. And let's just imagine for right now that that river flows not simply to the Connecticut River as it actually does, but that it flows across the country to Redwood City. There's a song in our hymnal that goes like this. We won't sing it now, but we will sing it a little bit later. It goes, there's a river flowing in my soul. You might know this one. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. And river is telling me that I am somebody because river knows that it's possible for me to forget. So let's let river forever remind us who we are. Let's come home to one another this morning. The title of this morning's reflection is The Best of My Heart. Good morning, Redwood City. It's been a while since I have seen your face. I don't even know if we would recognize one another, say, if we passed each other in a supermarket or something, especially not within this COVID context and the protective masks that we have to wear. Now, I'm glad to wear them, don't get me wrong, I'm not apologizing. It's just that we have to look a little harder and a little better and a little deeper at one another before we realize the friendship that is possible and the connection that is possible and the joy. I used to train in Redwood City. The organization that I used to work for was stationed there for some time back in the heyday, I would like to think, back in the glory days. I used to work for an organization that was called Bay Area Model Mugging. It had a great acronym. Bay Area Model Mugging was BAM, B-A-M-M. It's now called Impact Bay Area, but I used to be a model mugger. Now, I don't know if you know exactly what that is. And being that this might seem like a strange thing for a minister like me to say, is it okay if I explain to you what a model mugger is? I hope that you're all nodding yes from the comfort of your locations. This is such a crazy time. So, okay. So the organization that I used to work for was called Bay Area Model Mugging. It was the central business of this organization, its central mission was the teaching of self-defense, particularly to women of all ages who are at risk of sexual assault. It required a year's worth of training and a lot of physical and emotional and spiritual maturity. We trained in male and female teams, and we taught the skills of self-defense. It was a full contact class. In other words, the trainees pulled no punches, they held nothing back. They learned to fight with all of their might. It was our job to teach our students about the power that they had within themselves. Now I get it. It does sound funny to say that you were trained to be a model mugger, but it was one of the most challenging and one of the most profound things that I have ever done in my life. We had to equip ourselves with all manner of protective gear. We had foot pads and shin guards and knee pads and thigh shields and groin protection and chest plating and shoulder pads and mouthpiece and a helmet, a professional football helmet with eye netting and maybe 3 or 4 inches of additional industrial foam padding on the outside of that helmet. It was all held together with duct tape. It's fair to say that we looked fairly ridiculous, but we were safe and we got the job done. I learned of this organization because one of my dearest friends endured a devastating assault a few decades ago now. It has taken her and me a great deal of time to recover. It's the journey of a lifetime. I walk with her, not nearly the same path, but I still walk with her. At the time, I felt helpless. When I found out about it, I was furious. I wanted to do something. I wanted to find the man who did it. But my friend said that that wasn't necessary and would not be helpful to her. She really just wanted me to listen. And so I did, and I always will, as much as she wishes to share. One of the things that she shared with me was that in the process of her recovery, one of the things that was most important to her was the taking of a full impact self-defense training. That's what had inspired me to do the work. And I trained for it. We all did. There was a group of about 10 of us or so, and we trained to do this work in Redwood City, California. Now I realize that this is perhaps an unlikely way to introduce myself to you, but I do so because it's honest and because it's simply true. I do this as a means of connection, as a means of taking away whatever barriers might stand between us. Now, the week before I met your minister, Reverend Brian Ferguson, I went to a national conference in Fort Worth, Texas. And there was a fad at that time. Everybody was wearing the same button. As I remember, people had them on their hats and on their jackets and on their backpacks and on their fanny packs and on their scarves and on their briefcases everywhere. And they all said the same thing. They said, the most radical thing we can do is introduce ourselves to one another. The most radical thing we can do is introduce ourselves to one another. And I believe this. It is a terribly vulnerable experience, but it's so important to do. And when we do, so much more of life becomes possible. We become better able to extend ourselves to one another. An artist writes, I think of my poems and songs as hands. If I don't hold them out to you, I find that I won't be touched. And if I keep them in my pocket, I would never get to see you, seeing me, seeing you. And though I know from experience, many of you, for a myriad of reasons, will laugh and spit and walk away unmoved, still, to meet those of you who do reach out is well worth the risk and pain. So here are my hands. Do what you will. An artist named Rick Maston wrote these words. He lived in Carmel, California, not too far south of you. Beautiful country. So if it is true, what they were saying back there in Texas, if the most radical thing we can do is introduce ourselves to one another, then I say to you, hi, my name is Leon. How do you do? It's good to know you. May we find in our togetherness hope and honest joy. So I saw this article some time ago online on the topic of forgiveness. I saw it a few days ago, but the article was not new. I found it recently. The article itself was about 9 months old or so. It was first published in The Guardian, and it was entitled, Father of Parkland Shooting Victim Apologizes for the State of the Union Outburst. Jamie Gutenberg was 14 years old when she was killed in Parkland, Florida. Jamie was one of the 17 people who lost their lives on the 14th of February in 2018. It was a terrible day. And 2 years later, on the 4th of February in 2020, Jamie's father, Fred Gutenberg, attended the President Trump's State of the Union address as a guest of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. When the topic of the Second Amendment was raised and defended, Fred Gutenberg spoke out against the supportive applause and affirmation for gun rights that were rising in the crowd. He shouted, "What about the victims of gun violence like my daughter?" And then he was promptly escorted from the gallery. Reflecting on his actions, he apologized. He regretted his outburst and he explained, quote, "I let my emotions get the best of me. I simply want to be able to deal with the reality of gun violence and not have to listen to the lies about the Second Amendment. That said, I should not have yelled out, and I am thankful for the overwhelming support that I am receiving. However, I do owe my family and friends an apology. I have tried to conduct myself with dignity throughout this process, and I will do better as I pursue gun safety," end quote. Now, this prompted me to reflect on the nature and the boundaries and the limits and the deep meaning of forgiveness. I asked myself, why does a man as noble and as dignified and as justified as Fred Gutenberg feel the need to apologize for speaking out on behalf of his daughter? Why should someone like him say, "I'm sorry"? I was clear, if forgiveness were an act of contrition, if it were an act of repentance, I don't think that Fred Gutenberg should apologize. Just because he broke decorum, I don't think that that's meaningful. The article further mentioned other moments of incivility in the State of the Union. President Trump's refusal to take Nancy Pelosi's hand, Nancy Pelosi's choice to demonstrably tear the pages of the State of the Union speech into pieces upon its conclusion. Of course, the State of the Union itself was delivered just before the Senate vote in the impeachment hearings. The Guardian article further stated, quote, "Gutenberg isn't the first to shout out in disagreement with a presidential address. South Carolina Representative Joe Wilson notoriously yelled, 'You lie!' at Barack Obama during the 2009 speech to Congress on healthcare," end quote. It's not as if what Fred Gutenberg did was without precedent. As lacking in decorum as it might have been, from my point of view, Fred Gutenberg was far more respectful than Donald Trump or Nancy Pelosi or Joe Wilson in 2009. He was outspoken on behalf of his beloved daughter, lost to him on Valentine's Day 2 years earlier. What can be more justified than this? How could anything more possibly be asked of Fred Gutenberg? Now, what is special about this example of forgiveness is not what is being asked of Fred Gutenberg, but rather what Fred Gutenberg is asking of himself. Fred said that he let his emotions about his daughter, Jamie, get the best of him. Now, I reframe that in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Within me, Fred Gutenberg's emotions about his daughter did not get the best of him. Within me, Fred Gutenberg's emotions about his daughter are the best in him. They are that aspect of his mind, his heart, his soul that heaven knows best and that heaven truly is. Heaven is the best of our hearts. The kind of forgiveness that best serves us is the kind that understands this meaning of heaven. In my witness, heaven lies within, especially in times of deepest doubt, especially in our darkest hour. In country gospel music, when Kelly Jo Phelps sings it, it sounds like this: "Hold my knees to the ground. Lord, help my faith because my disbelief is killing me, and I surely need your grace. And I will open up the word and let you lead me on your way. And I'll pray that my eyes and my ears are open and I will hear you say, you are my sons and daughters, and I gave of my own to buy your crown, and all of heaven is buried in your heart. Our job is to not cover it over. Forgiveness is often central to this goal. Forgiveness is often the bedrock, the backdrop, the springboard. Forgiveness is often the bridge and the only way forward. Many times, without the blessing of forgiveness, we cut off access to the best parts of ourselves. And then our enemies win more decisively. And we help them to do that. So to my mind and heart and soul, this is why Jesus taught his students of life to love their enemies. That's the way I understand it anyway. But you don't have to be a follower of Jesus to get a little hip about the idea of forgiveness. You can also follow Oscar Wilde, if you please. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. I like the playful spirit of this idea, not because I think it's a good idea to strive to annoy one's enemies rather than to love them, but rather because what I mean by forgiveness is not permission. Forgiving someone or even something is not a helpless act of accepting the unacceptable. And refusing to forgive is not the breathless clinging to a wish for a world that does not exist. No, forgiveness is the agreement that we make with ourselves to accept the world as it is at present. Let me say that again. Forgiveness is the agreement that we make with ourselves to accept the world as it is at present. Nothing more. Now, I don't think it's meaningful for Fred Gutenberg to apologize for speaking out in boldest defense of his beloved daughter. I'm fine with what he did. I, and perhaps we, are ennobled by what he did. And I wonder if Fred hasn't already done the forgiveness that he most needs to do, for he has already given up the best part of his heart. Now, when I say give up, I don't mean surrender as if in defeat. I mean to give up, as in give upwards, offering our best to heaven and to one another. I mean something different than defeat. If we want to understand forgiveness in this way, we have to look a little harder, a little better, and a little deeper before forgiveness starts to flower and make more sense, before we recognize it as if we have spent too much time away. Would you even know me since I've been away? Forgiveness helps us to welcome ourselves back home. When I say that we should give up the best of our hearts, what I mean is that we should offer ourselves, surrender ourselves to that which is highest in us. I learned about this from 3 teachers, from a 5-year-old boy, from a beloved friend, and from the 17 in Parkland, Florida. The young 5-year-old just was the light of life. He walked around shouting and being a boisterous young boy. Whenever he would see me, he would say, "Hi, Leon," in his biggest shout out loud. And his mother is a minister, so I would wait until she was preaching in the middle of church so that I could sneak in the back way and catch Isaac's attention, just so that in the middle of the sermon he would say, "Hi, Leon," and disrupt the whole service. For him, I wrote these words: "Oh, how he tried to hold his light inside, but life is so mystified and free, no one controls. And the boy loves so bold that he washes the soul of me. And I just can't break like a bone anymore, and I just won't sink like a stone. I'm gonna pack up my sorrows and throw down my guns and give up the best of my heart. The second teacher was a beloved friend. For her I wrote, oh, how she burns, with graces unearned and tossed by the turning sea. Only the angels can face life so sober and true, embracing the sun and the moon of me. And to the 17 in Parkland, I wish them well and prayed, be wise and brave, your own soul to save. Your message engraved in gold, and I'll saddle up in the meantime and make my way closer to you. I wrote it down on guitar, and I'd like to offer parts of this to you at this moment. Oh, how you try to hold light inside, but life is so mystified and free. No one controls the boy loves so bold that he washes the soul of me. And I just can't break like a bone anymore. I just won't sink like a stone. I'm gonna pack up my sorrow, throw down my guns, and pick up the best of my heart. The best of my heart. And to my beloved friend. Oh, how she burns with graces unearned, tossed by the turning sea. Only the angels can face life so sober and true, embracing the sun and the moon of me. I just can't break like a bone anymore, and I just won't sink like a stone. I'm gonna pack up my sorrow, throw down my guns, and pick up the best of my heart. The best of my heart. I played this with a young woman named Molly, and Molly was playing this beautiful line on the violin. She played la da dee da, 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 dee. So the most beautiful part of the song you won't hear. And then she had a harmonizing line for be wise and brave. Instead of be wise and brave, she'd sing be wise and brave. And our voices were together so beautifully. When we played it together for the first time in front of my beloved friend and the 5-year-old boy at a conference we were both at. And I told her in the middle of the song, she would just like locked eyes on me. So she was just looking at me the whole time. And I leaned over to her and I said, you know, there are beautiful things happening right in front of you. Why don't you just check that out? And she said very frankly, I'm not looking out there. She didn't want to see that. She didn't want to feel that energy, but she knew where the limits were. And she played the beautiful lines and she sang the beautiful song. And that last verse went like this. Be wise and brave, your own soul to save, your message engraved in gold. I'll saddle up in the meantime and make my way closer to you. I'm gonna pack up my sorrow, throw down my guns, and pick up the best of my heart. Best of my heart. Thank you for indulging me. The gentle heart of forgiveness happens in its own time. There's no need to force anything, no need to rush anything. Forgiveness flowers when it's ready. If you try to rush the petals, they will not listen to you. Our job is to be open to forgiveness, to not foreclose upon it. Our job is to give up. Our job is to surrender. Surrender in ways that honor, in ways that magnify the best in us, the best of our hearts. Our job is to not dam off the rivers that keep us all connected. Our job is to refuse to let the misdeeds of others disable us from flowering when we're ready. This is the meaning of forgiveness. Forgiveness allows us to realize the power that we have within. May it be so. Blessed be. And amen. Will you please join me in the singing of our closing hymn, There is a River Flowing in My Soul. Dawn, my friend, once again, would you be so kind? So I will extinguish the chalice. Can we speak these words together? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So be wise and brave, your own souls to save, and your message engraved in gold. Thank you for being with us this morning, and I invite you to stay and join us for virtual coffee hour. It will begin momentarily after a short break. Come and join us, won't you? Thank you. Blessings and be well.